So I've mentioned in previous videos why I prefer my Fractal unit to any real amp in a gig situation. It's a bit more consistent, and no Fractal unit has more mojo or like special sauce than another Fractal unit. In fact, rare, special, mojo, special sauce instruments are becoming a thing of the past because people are buying guitars online more and more. Back in the day, people would go to the guitar shop and try out 15 guitars, sit on it for a second, try another 15, and find the one that really suited them. And people just don't want to do that anymore. In fact, my Silver Sky and both Sirs, I got them both online just on good faith that, the measurements that the guitar store said were correct. And I did check. I said, hey, what are the neck measurements? They sent me them, and I was like, I like those. And then I got them, and they were perfect. So basically, it went from the consumer having to find that one that really fit to every guitar needing to be special. The only thing that is still acceptable is that with every new year there will be new specs and maybe new technological developments, and that's what happened with the FM3. The new Fractal FM3 is everything I loved about my AX8, but there are definitely new upgrades and little subtle differences. I won't be getting into the layout differences, although I will just say that the FM3 Edit is definitely an upgrade from the old editing software. To be fair, that might just be because I'm not really gigging at the moment and I'm spending a lot of time with my Fractal on my computer, but I still think it is a bit easier to use. To familiarize myself with the new unit, when I first got it, I tried to build the exact same patch that was my favorite from the AX8, cabinet for cabinet, reverb for reverb, exactly the same. It sounded similar, but noticeably different to me, especially, it was my favorite preset, so any little difference I definitely picked up on. This meant that I would have to find, similar tones in a new way. To me, the perfect preset will be able to cover a lot of bases while still having an identity. For instance, Eric Johnson and Stevie Ray Vaughan have pretty wildly different, historic, wonderful tones, and they're both playing Strats and Defenders. And Eric will also play a Strat into a Marshall, and he sounds nothing like Yngwie Malmsteen when he plays a Strat into a Marshall. Despite that meaning that all those players were highly original, it also meant that that same gear could be bent to each of their own visions. Someone like Atosa Nabasi has a very particular sound as well, although he's playing active pickups in an 8-string through a very modern amp modeler, and it sounds wonderful, but I don't think I'd be able to put my stamp on that sound, or I don't think it would necessarily fit my vision as well, while being versatile enough to be able to let me play songs from the last 70 years with it. Maybe some people would have an easy time with it, but I don't think it would work for me that well. So with that in mind, my perfect preset is, for cleans, a Vibreverb with a stereo cabinet, 2x15 and a 1x15 split a little bit, a large room reverb, and 50 milliseconds of delay. Also compressed a bit. For a little crunch, it would be that exact same setup with the King of Tone around 7, maybe 5, between 5 and 7, depending on the thing. For a lot of crunch, it'd be that same thing with the King of Tone at 10. Then I have a matchless DC30 EF86 setting, whatever that is, going into stereo cabs as well, and the same reverb, same delay, a little bit of compression, and then I have a FET boost, just like the standard one in the Fractal, for kind of rock and lead though, maybe personalized lead. And then for super rock time, I have a Friedman Dirty Shirley, again stereo cabs, same reverb, maybe not the delay, maybe the delay, and then a AC booster to kind of just figure the tone a little bit. So my cab setup for everything is a stereo setup, and then I also dialed in a little bit of room sound, just to get a little closer, I think, to the idea that something is mic'd in another room. So the cleans take care of funk, singer-songwriter, anything clean, and then I can make them a bit more ambient just by, A-being my delay and reverb to something more ridiculous. I would think of something like Raise Your Glass, Thinking Out Loud, or Sugar by Maroon 5. little crunch and lotta crunch settings basically take care of anything Americana. That would be like Wagon Wheel, American Girl, Chicken Fried. Honestly, I would probably use it on the solo for thinking out loud as well. And maybe the chorus, just if I wanted to like rock out on Raise Your Glass. So that'd be where I'd have that A-B feature to switch between my two like very commonly used scenes. The matchless is like blues / Americana lead, but it's also just a tone that I enjoy. It's a bit more personal. It doesn't like tone match with a ton of songs, but I think it still sounds cool, and it sounds a bit more like what I would want it to sound like. I would use that on like Sweet Home Alabama, Cruise, Are You Gonna Be My Girl, Shut Up and Dance. Friedman is like rock time. Like that's for, Pour Some Sugar on Me, Don't Stop Believin', Living on a Prayer. Even if it was something like in the 90s and early 2000s where it seemed like, even though it was kind of like grunge or alt rock or whatever, people just were playing through really, really rock amps with really, really rock guitars. Like I think it was the ska band Really Big Fish where the guitar player played like an Ibanez RG through like a half stack that was probably like a Randall or something like that. You just found different, maybe weirdly heavy metal tones in these genres that weren't heavy metal at all. So if it were a more artist gig where I got to do my thing, then I might not use the Friedman. But if it was a cover gig or a wedding or something like that, I would think, at least in my head, that like Living on a Prayer or whatever sounds a little odd with like a bluesy, full Americana-y overdrive. And I should just put on a distortion and, serve the song for that moment. Also, every now and again, it feels cool because it's basically like I'm playing dress up and I'm putting on like an 80s rock outfit and going, this is kind of fun. And then I go back to my thing, which I guess would be a tasteful button down and like a hat if we're speaking in costumes. So anyway, so that's my perfect preset. It always changes, but it's similar every time. If it's not a vibroverb, it's a Dumble or something. If it's not a matchless, it's Dr. Z. If it's the Dirty Shirley, kind of stays pretty similar, but they might have a few things. Those are the kind of vibes that I kind of take with me. So again, that's my perfect preset, but what's yours? Please comment, like, subscribe. I love talking to you guys, and I'll see you next week.